Syria. In past 24 hours, infighting erupts among terrorists over distribution of Israeli aid packages to Iran. FNA members of the Free Syrian Army FSA started heavy infighting in Quneitra province in southwestern Syria over the distribution of Israeli-supplied aid packages, an Arab media outlet reported on Wednesday. Quneitra, the Arabic-language Al-Watan daily, quoted dissident-affiliated websites as saying that a number of the FSA militants started infighting over how to distribute aid as they were receiving 3 Israeli vehicles with a cargo of flour bags from commander of Tahamo al-Arar Abu Yazin al-Jabila and commander of Tahamo Abu Hamza al-Naimi Abu Tariq al-Qadir at gates of al-Dariyat region. It added that the Israeli missile units shelled the road connecting the villages of Al-Ma'alaka and Al-Rafid in southern Quneitra following the escalation among the FSA terrorists. The road was cut off due to the heavy fire of Israeli forces, Al-Watan added. Israeli forces have been providing financial, logistic, weaponry and medical supports for the terrorists in southern Syria. In the meantime, the Israeli hospitals have been admitting and curing a large number of Syria's injured terrorists. Damascus. The Syrian army troops engaged in fierce clashes with terrorists in eastern Ghouta, fending off their heavy offensive on Wednesday. The army men warded off terrorists' offensive on the pro-government forces' positions in the town of Harasta, killing tens of militants and destroying their equipment. The Syrian army troops stormed again the positions of al-Nusra Front Tahrir al-Sham or the Levant Liberation Board in eastern Ghouta on Monday, and seized control over several positions. The army men, backed up by the missile and artillery units, continued to hit the al-Nusra positions and imposed control over several positions in Jobar region south of al-Manashir Square. Raqqa. Hundreds of suspected members of the ISIL terrorist group and thousands of their family members were allowed to flee Raqqa in convoys arranged by U.S.-backed forces in the days before the city fell to coalition forces. Operation Inherent Resolve spokesman Col. Ryan Dillon told reporters. Col. Ryan Dillon essentially confirmed a BBC report that 250 ISIL fighters and thousands of family members, along with weapons and other supplies, were dispersed throughout Syria in a series of convoys that were arranged by US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF). In the course of that screening there were 4 foreign fighters that were identified and detained by the Syrian Democratic Forces, Dillon said, adding, out of the rest of the 3,500 civilians that came out of Raqqa at that time, approximately less than 300 were identified and screened as potential ISIL fighters. Aleppo. Hundreds of people in a town in western Aleppo took to the streets and drove the al-Nusra Front out of several checkpoints and command posts, dissident-affiliated websites reported on Wednesday. The websites reported that hundreds of residents of the town of Al-Ardab in western Aleppo poured out into the streets, opposing al-Nusra's presence in their town. The demonstrators stormed the al-Nusra positions and seized control over Al-Ardab Court, Al-Sharqi, Al-Maqsala and Al-Mahkama checkpoints and the group's command posts, the websites reported, adding that the people are due to hand over the captured checkpoints to the local council. The websites added that a number of al-Nusra terrorists were killed and several more were arrested by the people in the uprising. Al-Nusra has gathered almost 3,000 of its fighters in western Aleppo to attack Nur al-Din al-Zinki's positions from 3 directions. Dara Khalid Vajiha al-Samadi, a senior commander of a terrorist group affiliated to the Free Syrian Army FSA, was killed in roadside bomb explosion in northern Dara, dissident-affiliated websites reported on Wednesday. The websites said that Khalid Vajiha al-Samadi, the commander of Afad Ali Brigade affiliated to Shabab al-Sunna, was killed along with 2 of his forces in a roadside bomb blast on the road that connects the regions of Samad and Samaj to each other. Shabab al-Sunna is affiliated to the FSA. Hama. The Syrian army troops continued to advance against the al-Nusra Front towards Idlib province, after winning control over several hills, towns and villages in northeastern Hama on Wednesday. The army men pushed al-Nusra back from the small town of Mawila, Tal Hill Mazar and the village of al-Jamila north of the small town of al-Hamra. The army soldiers also captured al-Banat Hill north of the village of al-Rabia. The army's engineering unit started defusing bombs and landmines planted by the terrorists in the region. Also in the past 24 hours, the Syrian army soldiers hit the positions of the al-Nusra Front hard in northeastern Hama and captured several villages. The army men drove the al-Nusra out of the villages of Qasa al-Shawi, al-Qaika and al-Hizam, killing and wounding a number of militants. Deir Ezzor. The Syrian army troops made a major push against ISIL in the town of Abu Kamal in southeastern Deir Ezzor, and laid siege on the ISIL terrorists from different directions, field sources reported on Wednesday. The sources confirmed that the army units, backed up by the Russian and Syrian air support, managed to advance against ISIL in the outskirts of al-Bukamal, laying siege on the terrorist-held town from the eastern, southern and western directions up to the settlements of al-Sukriya and al-Hamdan. Also, the army's artillery and missile units pounded ISIL's positions inside the town. In the meantime, other units of the army are advancing against ISIL in the northern direction of al-Bukamal. Also in the past 24 hours, local sources confirmed that the ISIL continues to surrender its positions to the Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF) within the framework of its earlier agreement on the territories that it holds in eastern Syria. The sources reported that the ISIL delivered the town of al-Shahil in eastern Deir ez-Zor to the SDF, adding that the ISIL has handed over the key town of al-Basira to the US-backed forces. ISIL has been pulling forces back from more positions in eastern Deir ez-Zor, handing them over to the SDF based on a secret agreement, sources affiliated to militants said. Also on Wednesday, the Syrian and Russian warplanes bombed heavily ISIL's positions in southeastern Deir ez-Zor near the border with Iraq, killing 2 notorious terrorist commanders. The fighter jets targeted one of the command posts of the ISIL around the town of al-Bukamal, killing Hazem al-Barkash and the entire members of his group. Also, Hatham al-Qazi, Namdegir Tok, one of the field commanders of the ISIL, was killed in the raid.